Hi guys, it's Amy and you have found Amy Loves Crochet. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really do appreciate you clicking on my video. Whether this is the first time you've seen me or if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so very much. I want to share with you some hats I've been working on. As you can see, what I'm wearing it is from Big Twist Premium. It's a worsted 4-weight that's discontinued, and the colorway is Gemstone Stripes. So we'll go ahead and put that up there for you to see. All these beautiful, there's a purple in there you can't see right here. I really just love this yarn. I started my addiction to it, of course, after it had become discontinued, and I found it first in a chunky version. You guys may have heard me talk about this before, and this one is called Morocco, Chunky Morocco. So I have made a bag out of this yarn, this colorway, and I love it so much that I haven't used the rest of what I've got. This is from a blanket that I used as well, these solid colors. But I've got all of this that's the same Morocco color, and then I recently found 3 skeins of this in a 4-weight. It's not worsted, it's not the chunky, it's worsted, and it is called Misfit Stripes. So I've got 3 skeins of this that I can't wait to dive into, and these are 116 yards each. So when I ordered these, it had 1 skein of this gemstone stripes. And so I was sitting here forever, kind of waiting for the right project to come along. You always do that when you find your favorite yarn and you've only got that 1 skein left or whatever. So the reason that I worked on the hat, this was kind of the second thought from the start of my project. I wanted to work, so kind of backtrack. My shelves are a mess. I've got hanks going on, and then I cake up the hanks. Like, these are all ones, but I can't hang hanks and have cakes at the same time. And not all of my, diamond-shaped spaces can hold a hank the right way. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what am I going to do about all this stuff. And I had these 5 hanks of yarn that I continued to think they were a 3, but they were really a 5. So I wanted to just work them and get them out of my stash so that I can stop being confused about what they were. So that's why I started this bulky 5 hat project. This yarn happens to be a very fat 4, so that's why I decided to go ahead and throw it in there as well, do the same pattern, and I'm not going to say get rid of it. I'm going to say work it up so that I can move on to something else. So so again, this one is called Gemstone Stripes, and the pattern, the hat pattern that I'm using is by Donna B Creates. I'll link it down below, and it is my favorite 5-weight chunky pattern. She calls it my go-to hat or my go-to beanie, something like that, and it's with 5-weight yarn, and this has become my go-to for 5-weight yarn when I need to work up 5-weight yarn into a hat, because I know how it's going to work out. I know how it's going to fit. So that's how I started this whole project. That's how I started. I've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hats that I made out of these 5 skeins, and this is the amount that I've got left. So this one is the one that I only had 1 of. Okay, so Donna B Creates. So some people start hats, some people do a hat in an 8-stitch, some do a 10-stitch, some do a 12-stitch. As you're working it, different patterns come different ways. But this hat is a 10-stitch count. So the first round is 10, the second round is 20 stitches, the third round is 30 stitches. So when we get to 5 rounds at the end of 50 stitches, it should reach about 7 inches across, which is the adult size hat circumference, or your top part here. So I knew that when I worked this up and the first one was dead on what it was supposed to be, I didn't even look back. I jetted through the rest of all of these 5 skeins of yarn to get the hats built, because the pattern works up so quickly. So what she does, this was the first one that I did. What she does is you start either with a magic ring or with a chain 4 to make a ring, and you do 2 single crochets, 2 half double crochets, and then 6 double crochets, and that's your first 10. And then you work in the round. So you got to make sure you got a stitch marker, and then you do your standard increases, 2 in every, and then 2, 1, 2, 1, and so forth. So when you get up to your 50 stitches, you just do half double crochets through the whole rest of the hat, and you work in the round. So you just go all the way to the end. And then she does this great little, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called the crab stitch. It's a reverse single crochet for the border. And it's just a nice little, really, really nice little design. You can see here, it does a really great little bottom. You know, you don't have to do anything too fancy. Sometimes just a single crochet looks too plain. So with a crab stitch like that. So this was the first yarn. So I did it exactly as her pattern goes, just so that you guys could see. This yarn color is Meadow Majestic. And these are each 110 yards, 100 grams. So I was able to, so these ones, let me do it. Let me show you. Doing it by her pattern, my hat came out to be about 77 grams. So that's all you'll need of a 5 bulky weight and a 6.5K millimeter hook. I don't know if you can see that. And so this one was 77 grams. So what I started to do is, okay, so then I had 2 of the same colorways, Meadow Majestic. Well, one of them had a lot more. Can you see the orange and coral colors here and the greens? See how much darker the orange is? These are the same skein. This bottom section here and this other hat. That's the same colorway, the same number, not the same skein, the same colorway. So that'll tell you how 2 of the same colorway can look so different. So I think this was the last one I did. So the next one I did after that was I wanted to see if I created some space, chain 1, space 1, and then do a stitch in every other. If these little windows like might feel good to get a little bit of air, you know, these are nice, solid, bulky weight, you know, dense hats. If you want a little bit of air, a little bit of breathing space, and if you don't maybe have as much yarn, like you're trying to stretch your yarn a little bit, then you can always skip stitches and make it last a little bit longer. So I'll show you what this one looks like. Cute. Cute. I love the little kind of detail that it gives you. And, you know, not every colorway is going to work with every person. But, so I just kind of started to mess around a little bit and then do different borders. Like I think I just did a single crochet border on this one. Depending on how you're crocheting, you may do either 8 or 9 yards of the half double crochet that goes around, and then she does the crab border. So what I did in some cases, in most cases I stopped at the 8, and then maybe I did 2 rounds of single crochets just to give it something a little bit different. So then here's like this one where you can see I did 2 rounds of double crochet. My nails need to get done, so I'm dying. I don't want to show you. So these 2, you know, this one had, I was trying to really space it out. So I had a little bit of one colorway and then the bottom of the other one. Remember I showed you how different they were? So the top is the light color, and then the bottom of the hat here is where I started doing the half double crochets, is where I attached the second skein, what was left. So I had a little bit more of that because I did all the spacing here. So I did some extra spacing on this one as well to kind of make it last as long as I could. And I had like a teeny tiny amount at the end of this one. So I really used the most. This one, I only had 1 cake. Look at that. That is called electric. And I did not pull like on purpose or anything, but you can see what it does. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I love it. And these colors are just so electric, of course. That's like a dad joke. No, but I mean, look at how beautiful. Those colors are gorgeous. And it is so soft. You know, when the sale was happening, these are from Hobby Lobby clearances, when they were happening and I was starting to buy hanks for the first time, and I grabbed these. I was like, what am I ever going to do with them? I don't know, but boy, am I glad I bought that. It was $3.74 of gorgeousness. Look at that. Oh, I love it. Okay. So that one, I only had the one hank of, and I do not, obviously, it was closer to, this one is 75 grams. So yeah, I've only got that little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'll put it with something else, some other fives that are all working together. But this is superwash merino wool. All the rest of my fives are like acrylic. So, or acrylic cotton blend maybe. So I don't know that this is going to be the same fiber. Obviously I think I'm going to keep this separate until there's some other kind of scrappy thing to put together. I don't know. So then this next color is called Floral Frenzy, and it certainly is. This is one that I did first. Look how pretty. Blue, and then it's like this turquoise and the orange, and then that super bright pink. And so for this one, I did 2 chains and then 3 half doubles together, and then 2 chains and then 3 half doubles together. So it kind of spaced out the spacing a little bit. And God, those colors are just so pretty. The hank was really, really cute. Wound up still. Like, I hate that I enjoy the color on the hank, but then I have to take it apart to use it, and then it's beautiful here too. I still want the hank. So again, just another couple that I was kind of doing the spacing a little bit different, trying to mix and match a little bit. One of them I did, I think this one might be it. So this one I did like every other, how it's alternating. And then one of them I did where the they're on top of each other like that, as opposed, so the spaces are on top of each other and the half doubles are on top of each other, whereas this one they kind of alternated a little bit, just to play with it. That's all crochet is, just trying to do different things with it. So I didn't ever change it from the top down to the 5th row. So all of them have the same starting, like I explained to you, and then you do all double crochets through the rest of the crown part, the top part. And then when you start your half double crochets at the end of the 5th row, at the beginning of the 6th row, you start your half double crochets, and that's the only time I did any changing. So like I said, some of them are you just completely work in the round and you never stop working in the round until the very base. And then what you do is you're on half double crochets and you stop like 4 or 5 stitches from the end. So then you do a couple of single crochets and then a couple of slip stitches. So it brings your edge down. That's the only drawback in working in the round. We all really hate having a stripe up the back when you're working round, I don't know how to distinguish that when you're working rows of a hat versus working in the round. So we love that we don't have a seam up the back, but then we have to deal with the uneven edge. So that was kind of another thing I'll show you. I'll be honest. I ain't gonna lie. Where is it? I gotta find it. This might be it. So see, if you're working with a color yarn, you can really see it. So right here, there's a row of half doubles, and then you come down and flatten out right here. And then you start your crab row. Can I get close enough to see that? So see right here, there's 2 rows. There's a row here and a row here. And then this row just kind of melts down, squishes down, and becomes the same right here. So this is where you start that reverse crab. And so if you picked at it, you can find where it is. But this is very, very apparent if you're using a solid color yarn that has stripes, if you like changed the colors throughout. Being this is a variegated, it's not as noticeable. And so sometimes too, like this one, I worked 2, let me see if I can find it so I can show it to you. Here's 2 double crochet or 2 half doubles, and then I did a chain space, or skipped one, and 2 chain and skip, and then 2 together, chain and skip. So this was the first one that I kind of did differently than the pattern, just to kind of see how it might turn out. And you're not seeing great big gaping holes. It's a little bit different of a look than if you did, you know, chain 2, skip 2. So I love this pattern because you can really change it up so much. You've got, you know, that 8 rows of half double crochet that you can kind of do anything. So what I do if I want it to be no longer working in the round and I want to work up rows so that I could get an even design. So like when you're doing the chain 1, skip 1s and stuff, if you want that, let me see if I can show you the difference. Here's one where I did it while I was still working in the round. Okay, so here's where we're coming around with solid half double crochets, and then I decided to start doing a chain 1, space 1. That's a dark spot, that's not a hole. Chain 1, space 1, or chain 1, space 2. What did I do? Chain 2, space 2. So here you've got solid, and I just began my spacing so that I could have this spacing. And then when I get down to the bottom, here's my spacing, and then I just begin my solid. So that when you come around, here's where you join. So you can see that it has an extra row down here, and it just sort of, you know, shrinks up into that because I was doing halves, and then I was doing singles, and then I did a slip stitch to join. So you don't have to break out of the round to start changing it up like that. I think you're going to have a lot more forgiveness in variegated yarn. You're going to see that step down a lot more with a color, a solid color that you're doing stripes. But you can. So what I did, I think on this one, as I was coming around, let's see, how many did I do? 1, 2. I did 2 rows of the half double, and then you can't really see it, which is a good thing. I enjoy that you can't really see it, but here you can't really see it. So what I did was I'm doing half doubles, and then for like the last 2 I do single crochet so that I'm small, and then I do a chain 1 and a half double in the next one, so now I'm taller again, and that sort of gives you, now when you come back around to that half double, you're going to slip stitch into it and chain 1 to the next row so that you can put these on evens, and then you're on an even to finish the hat. So where I say that you kind of melt the bottom up into being an even with a round, my words. So when you're working in halves, and then, you know, you're going to come around and be like this, you need to kind of come down some. So you're in a half, you do a couple of singles and then a slip to bring that down. We've done that up here in this type of scenario. So now I've got the round, 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 which is great. And then I stop that round, 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 and I create rows so that I can have my even rows here. And then the bottom of my hat is going to be even. No more of that meshing down here. I've meshed that up here. So it's a way to sort of hide that. And then in this case, I'm going to show you my seam. Here's my seam, which you can't really tell. And what I do is I do it a little bit differently than some. I come in from the back. So when you're about to slip stitch to join around, I take my hook out, and I come in from the inside of the hat, and I put the slip of yarn onto my hook, and I pull it through. And then I do my slip stitch behind the row instead of like in front or on top of the row. And so it makes you turn around, and you do your slip stitch, and then you turn back around and continue on. And in my opinion, it sort of hides it. See, right along here, you can't even see it. It looks a little bit different, but it doesn't look anything like the standard working, you know, doing that slip stitch line all the way through your hat. So I hope some of that makes sense. Go check out Donna B Creates. I link it down below. The hat itself is a wonderful, wonderful pattern. She'll show you a lot of different yarns that she uses. I've used it in a ton of different yarns. Some are too fat for it. If you're working with a 5 that calls for an 8mm hook, that is not going to work. Like, I think this is one of those. This is a 5 that calls for an 8mm hook. Don't use this yarn for that pattern. It's not going to work. It's too big. So that, whoops. So that was my hat excursion. I got 3 hats out of, oh, I'm wearing it. I got 3 hats out of that colorway because I really did some spacing and made what I had left go a long, long way. And then out of this, I have this tiny little bit left, which is just a little bit more than I had from the Meadow Majestic, but I also got 3 hats out of that. Some of these are coming to K Crochet. I'll link them down below as well. They've got a Bumblebee outreach program for some hat donations, so I'm going to send these on to them. Hi, K. But so yeah, so I got 3 hats out of the 2 skeins and got this little bit left. And then I just got the one of the electric color that's so fabulous. And this one, what did I have left out of this? Oh. And so again, here, this one was a 4-weight yarn, and it was just super fat. So it worked for the pattern as well. Whoops. Get up there. So I've got about 19 grams left of that. So look how pretty. I love it. Okay, I gotta let the dogs in. Fine. Excuse me. All right, get the dogs all situated. The next thing that I wanted to share with you is the yarn is very near and dear to my heart because it was like the first fancy yarn, I think, is what I want to say, that I purchased. It's a fingering weight yarn from Leading Men Fiber Arts, and I do have some of their worsted here, but I've got these 3 left here. These rusty ones, I think they're called clay, red clay, and then this one is Achieve Grapeness. So those I bought to go with this, which is called Masquerade. There we go. Look at how gorgeous. And it was such a pretty colorway in the hank. This is definitely one of those that I wanted to leave in the hank forever and never ever use it because the hank was so gorgeous. But alas, we can't really enjoy the yarn unless we take it out of hank form and put it into a cake. So the pattern that I found to work, that I chose to use this yarn on, I had printed this out and held on to it for a very long time. I saw Gary from Urban Yarns showing his scarf made from this pattern, and so I jammed right out and took a look at it and fell in love with it and printed it out, but I was waiting for the right yarn. And I changed my mind on what yarn I was going to use on this like 50,000 times, and I can't say that I love the pattern with this yarn. I think there's some patterns, I talked about this before, some patterns are too busy and you need a solid color yarn. Vice versa, sometimes the yarn is crazy, so you want just a very simple pattern. This is kind of a crazy yarn. The color changes are very, very, very quick, so you don't really get to necessarily enjoy a colorway. You're getting like stitches of a color. And I did talk to the gentleman, Steve and Andy, at the trunk show at Seven Sisters, where he was telling me that this was kind of one of their earlier ones, where so maybe he doesn't put the color changes as quickly anymore. But this is how much I've got left of this, and it is, I wrote it on here, 63 grams. So 63 grams of sport weight yarn of the most delicious color ever. I'll still be able to put the red clay and the grape achieveness with it, and it'll create something gorgeous. I just know it will. But this is the pattern that I worked on. It's very, very pretty. And I didn't see it looking like this until after I blocked it. It's very hard. Here's the side that I did not block yet. Where is that? You're like, you can't really see much going on. It's all curly cued. The edges come in and you don't really see it. But here where it's blocked, you can. So here's my gorgeous, what is it called? It is called the Stormy Seas Scarf. It's like a feather and fan stitch, but it's on the bias. So here you can see, you've got your space. Here, let me put it up again, so maybe that's easier. Nope, see how crazy the colors? You've got to really, here we go. Okay, So you've got your, your valleys and your mountain peaks, and then your valleys and your mountain peaks. So it's a wave pattern. And doing a standard feather and fan stitch or a wave stitch like this, you can kind of feel where you're at, because all of your valleys go to the same place and all of your mountaintops go to the same place. But this is on the bias. See, here's holding it correctly. So it was very difficult for me to just see it and know where I was supposed to be. Like, I really had to follow the pattern. I really had to mark where I was, because, this section is the same twice, or however, whatever. This section is the same, but then the edges get to be different because this is moving on the bias. So see, like here, like, so here's the peak. So then you've got like one here, and then here you've got two, and then here you've got 3 or 5 or whatever, you're growing along the edges. So it's kind of hard to tell where you're at. But, I mean, just by looking at it, if you're following the pattern, it was very easy to follow. It's very, very easy to follow. So the pattern is for a fingering weight yarn, but this is a sport weight yarn. And my finished product is 137 grams, 137 grams, 70 inches long and 10 inches wide. And the pattern calls for 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend, 463 yards and 100 grams, and they used a 4.5 millimeter hook. I used a 5 millimeter hook. And there's a lot of names here. So it's called the Stormy Seas Scarf, from a company called Yarn Along the Rockies. It was made by Dorian Owen for Fancy Tiger Crafts. So there's a whole lot of names there, and she's got her cute little picture right here. Say hi. So yeah, this was a great pattern. I'll make sure to link it down below, from 2019. And I really like the photo shows. I really like the lighter color that it ended up, that we see the pattern made from. I love this yarn, so I'm not complaining about the colorways of it. It's hard to see it because it's so dark. I mean, maybe if you really take your time to look at it, but I just absolutely loved it. Here's one end that was blocked out, so you can see how the bias, you're higher on the one side than the other. So I just loved it. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful pattern. And I look at my colors. Oh my God, you guys, those colors. I have to block this end still. This is the unblocked end. But anyway, all right. Yes, I'm still battling this congestion. It's been over 2.5 weeks. I still have all of my sense of smell and taste. I never had chills, never had fever. It is not the sea. I'm staying clear from saying that word, but I'm still it's just allergies, congestion like crazy. And I'm getting a little bit tired of not being able to breathe. I bought a neti pot. It's shipping, and it should be here in the next day or two. So we'll give that a try. If any of you guys have a home remedy for congestion, what you do to get rid of this not being able to breathe stuff. I've taken every decongestant over the counter that you can think of, and I'm tired of spending money on junk. So if you have a home remedy, let me know what you do to get rid of your congestion. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This shawl scarf has been sitting here for quite some time. I was very lazy to block it. I'm so glad that I finally did, so that I can share it with you today. It was just such a gorgeous. I think a sport weight is going to be my favorite. Fingering, getting into fingering weight was something new and exciting, and I love how precious garments feel after they've been, working with 4-weight acrylic forever and ever. And then you start feeling this superwash merino fingering weight yarn, and I just love it. So I think a 2 is going to be my go-to. I think I really enjoyed the sport weight, and some of these others that I have that are in a sport weight, I can't wait to get into. This one here that I dyed, that turned out so pretty. This one is the U.S. grown, 100% U.S. grown American wool. And then this is that, what's it called? Alpaca, baby alpaca, 100% baby alpaca. That's just so gorgeous. The fuzz It is fuzzier than it was when I bought it, but it doesn't bother me as much now. It does look like alpaca is supposed to look, I suppose. So, all right, guys. I hope you have a wonderfully blessed day. Please do come back and see me again. Thanks for sitting with me today. Bye-bye.